What's up, everybody? We back with another message, another video. Thank you to all my new subscribers and future new subscribers. You know we do nothing here without God because everything is spiritually led by God over here. We cover the world from a spiritual and physical aspect to get the raw, real, and uncut answers. So anything you hear, anything you see in these end times, may you test the spirits, aka take the words and visuals back to prayer with God, as there are many Decepticons running around in these end times sent from the enemy. Had that strong, close, and personal relationship with God, good, great, awesome, okay? If you are interested in one-on-one talks, we do that on Discord. I have the setup and how to get into it and everything about it in the description and pin in the comments down below. Good, great, awesome. So this is what we're talking about today. The Lord has been warning over the course of time of shortages, famines and food shortages, medicine shortages. And so this is what we're going to be talking about as far as shortage-wise medicine. Back around Mother's Day, last month, the Lord gave me a pretty vivid description of what was coming, with the food and medicine. He was just explaining that. So before I even get into more detail, I'm going to tell you this because I already know how people are and how people get. People, for some reason, love to wait for things to happen, to be like, awake. The whole point of warnings is to be proactive and be prepared. That's the point. If you just wait until disaster happens and with the world and everything is chaos, then you're going to be right with the world trying to figure things out. You know what I'm saying? So that defeats the purpose of a warning from God. Anyway, I know that there are many of you that have children that might take things or, are always concerned about the children's health, being the parent, or you are somebody taking care of another person, or you yourself takes things. This is what the Lord wants me to tell you. Don't fear and have faith in the Lord. Because sometimes a lot of people, what they'll do is depend on a certain medication, and you really sometimes don't know fully what's going on, especially when shortages of medication comes, if y'all get what I'm saying. So be careful. The Lord will heal you, okay? He will do a lot of things. God does not play. He will take care of his children. But you got to have the faith in order for that to happen. So God was letting me know, like, hey, I'm taking down, allowing the failure of the pharmaceutical department because of things that's being done for various reasons. People just having faith in that instead of me. It's a lot of reasons why this is starting to happen. So yes, even though this has been something beforehand that's kind of been like, okay, we having a couple of shortages of this and, but it's getting so bad to the point to where there might be substitutes. So y'all see where I'm going with that? I try to give a good background for you guys to understand what's really going on before I show you the prior word and go into the actual news and all that extra stuff, so that you don't walk into this stuff with fear. Make sure you depending and seeking on the Lord. I told you and I keep telling you guys that things are going to get worse. So, the Lord already been telling us, and it's getting worse as we are in June. We received word in May about, stuff like this as a reminder. So as you see these things happen, stay close to the Lord and ask for healing, ask for health, good health, life. Pray about this stuff. Depend on the Lord. Don't be in fear with everybody else. Okay? So, again, this is only going to get worse. And I'm not waiting for disaster so that y'all can also be in situations where you're like, okay, what to do? No, I'm showing you, letting you know as it's my job to do ahead of time before it gets worse. We take the beginning signs, we take the beginning factors of things over here. We don't wait until it happens in full. All right? So this is what proactive is like. This is what we're going to be doing. This world is about to fall down. We might have good news, but it's not going to be good news for everybody in the world. And God is showing us this. All right? All right. He says things most people need or use on a regular basis will become short in supply. okay? Like before, children, I know what he's talking about. Like before, children will be affected by this. So, you know, remember in Canada, them kids were struggling to receive treatment, babies and stuff. They didn't have enough medical resources, medication to get to the children. So shortages. So he's talking about stuff like that. It's going to become a thing more so than anything. Because resources, it's just stuff is just not going to be available. Shelves will begin to be empty. The Lord says they already have. So he says natural. Things that are natural, the things that you would think would be normal on the shelf, there are shortages. They're putting things up. I hear replicas, decoys. So things that you think you're eating, they're putting that stuff up there so people won't freak out.
Pharmacies are running low on medicine for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which affects about 9% of children and 4% of adults. Our Jolani Martinez tells us how the shortage is affecting patients.
The shortage of Adderall, which is a stimulant that helps manage ADHD symptoms, has been going on since October. Although the FDA's website shows the active ingredients in Adderall are available, patients, providers, and pharmacies are still struggling to get a hold of the medication.
And here it is the following June, and we're still not able to always fill a total month's prescription for our patient. And here it is the following June, and we're still not able to always fill a total month's prescription for our patients.
Wailua Brandman is a nurse practitioner who specializes in psychiatry. He's having to call multiple pharmacies to check their Adderall stocks.
It can be for a whole half hour. It can be for 10 minutes if I'm lucky. And a lot of times I see my patient during a lunch hour at the pharmacy. So I can't even get a hold of the pharmacist sometimes because they're at lunch. And so that's a big problem too.
It's quite a burden that has been placed on us per se, because we are, the last step, the gatekeepers to this medication.
Pharmacist Corey Lejano owns Maliola Pharmacy on Maui. He says part of the reason for the Adderall shortage is demand is up, but supply has remained mostly the same. Other drugs are also being impacted by shortages in active ingredients, which are strictly limited by the federal government. Pharmacies are also limited to how much Adderall they can order. Lejano says he's having to turn away patients almost every day.
The demand is much higher, but the supply hasn't changed, which is causing really the shortage. And so our distributors aren't able to get what we need.
Lejano looked up Adderall on their ordering platform, showing little availability for lower price generics.
So a lot of insurance companies will not cover brand name. So patients will have to end up paying $800 out of pocket just for their medication. So it's, again, it's unfortunate, and we don't see any type of relief in sight.
Key chemotherapy drugs are under shortage. The list has grown to 14, according to the FDA, and doctors are sounding the alarm.
These are life-threatening shortages. Some hospitals are completely out.
Dr. Eleonora Toplinsky, an oncologist based out of New Jersey, treats women with breast and gynecologic cancer. One of the drugs in short supply is called carboplatin, often used to treat breast cancer, as well as ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, and lung cancer. She says she's fortunate that her hospital still has the drug, but she worries it might not last. Some hospitals are having to ration their supply and delay treatment for some patients, which could be life-threatening.
To tell a patient that we have this great treatment and it's going to work, but we can't give it to you because it's in short supply is really, I think, one of the hardest things.
Drug shortages are nothing new. Drugs are under a shortage all the time. But according to a report from the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, drug shortages are at a record high. The report says new drug shortages increased by nearly 30% between 2021 and 2022.
We have not seen a shortage like this on this scale, at least in the last 10 years that I can recall.
Clinical trials that depend on these drugs could also be put at risk.
How is that going to impact the data if we can't give patients the drug that they need. So there, the repercussions are really immense.
Doctors are also asking why. Why are these drug shortages happening? Dr. Arif Kamal with the American Cancer Society told Scripps News newer drugs don't generally face drug shortages. It's the tried and true drugs that eventually come off patent, which then allows other companies to produce generic versions, bringing in new competition, hurting the original maker's bottom line, incentivizing companies to make newer drugs instead, reducing production on the less profitable ones. Produce generic versions, bringing in new competition, hurting the original maker's bottom line, incentivizing companies to make newer drugs instead, reducing production on the less profitable ones.
The American Cancer Society sending an alarming alert stating the shortage of certain cancer drugs has become a serious and life-threatening issue for cancer patients across the country. The FDA identifying nearly a dozen oncology drugs on the shortage list, including carboplatin, which is commonly used for treating breast, ovarian, and other cancers. It's considered highly effective with minimal side effects.
The supply of several medicines continues to run low in Taiwan. The products affected include drugs to treat allergies and stomach problems.
The shortage is so severe for one nasal spray brand that pharmacists report having to barter for supplies with other pharmacists online.
And finding a replacement treatment is equally difficult, as few suitable options exist, and when they do, they are also in short supply.
This pharmacy has just opened, but already people are lining up to collect their prescriptions, while staff are rushing to dispense drugs into bags. Taiwan has been seeing a severe shortage of some medical drugs, so much so that some pharmacists have resorted to bartering with other pharmacists.